Today we are talking about inequalities and their graphs. Wow! First, you should write these examples down in your notebook. This is an example in words, and then what it would look like as symbols, and what the graph would look like. So whenever you see just less than, it looks like this symbol right here, less than. This is what it would look like as an equation, and this is what it would look like as a graph. Whenever you have less than, you'd want to make sure to have an open circle at the points that you're talking about. So in this case, it's an open circle at 3. For the next one, it says greater than. So you are looking at the number on the left. That's what you would want to eat because it's greater than the other number. And also, this would be an open circle again, except this time it would be pointing to the right. Whenever your variable is on the left-hand side, like all of these are, whichever way the symbol points is which way the line should be pointing on your graph. The next one we have less than or equal. The only difference is it has this line underneath. That's symbolizing or equals. This is less than or equal. And whenever you have a line underneath, it's always going to be a closed circle because it's saying it also includes that number. So it can be 0. The other two, when it's less than or greater than, it does not include that number. And finally, we have greater than or equal. And again, whenever the variable is on the left-hand side, like this, whichever way the symbol's pointing is the same way that the graph points. And again, since the greater than or equal has a line underneath, it would also be a closed circle on your graph. And that's what it would look like. So now for these next two problems, I want to write the inequality equation. So this is saying all real numbers x is less than or equal to -7. So x comes first, so I'm going to write that first. And it says less than, so x is smaller than, so I don't want to eat it, or equal to, so then I also have the line below, -7. So that's what the equation would look like. Now the second one is a little bit different. As you can see, the less than or equal to comes together all at one, and then there's the number. In the second example, we have less than a number. That's not an inequality sign. That would be 6 less than a number k. And it says this is greater than, so I'd rather eat that than the number 13. So again, it's just looking for what words mean what mathematical things. Here I want to see, are these numbers an answer or a solution to this inequality? So I'm going to do the first one, and then you will do the second one by yourself. So it's saying that what if x is -3? So if I have 2 and I plug in -3, I have +1 is greater than -3. Is this true? So 2 times -3 is 6 plus 1 greater than -3. This becomes -5. And if I were to read this out loud, this is saying -5 greater than -3. Or when you're looking at the symbol, this is saying that you would rather eat the -5 because it's larger. Is -5 larger than -3? No, that's false. So -3 is not a solution. I want you to pause the video right now and attempt to do the next problem by yourself. You should have gotten yes, that's true. -1 is greater than -3. So this would be a solution to this inequality. So now we're actually going to be graphing some inequality statements. So like I said, whenever the variable's on the left-hand side, the arrow should point to where the symbol says. When you have a number line, the only point that I really care about is this point right here. So that's the only point I'm going to label. So it's just at 1. Now this says it's less than. There's no line. So I have to make sure to have an open circle at that point. And anything that's less than 1 is what I need to shade. So I'm going to be shading to the left because it's any numbers less than 1. So that's what the graph would look for this first one. For the second one, my point is at 0. So I want to just have one point and label it at 0. And since there's a line here, it's going to be a closed point at 0. Now this says a is greater than 0. So any number that's larger than 0 are true to this solution. So I want to point my arrow to the right. Again, whenever the variable is on the left, it should point the same way. The next point would be at -3. So I'm just going to label -3. There's no line on my symbol, so it's going to be an open circle. And it says f is greater than, so it's going to be any numbers that are greater than -3 is what I want to graph. Now this last one, you can still do even though the variable's on the other side of the equation. But it might be easier for you to rewrite this. So I'm going to rewrite this. And it's key to see that the symbol is pointing to the x. So I have to make sure to point the symbol at the x. So whenever you flip-flop an equation like this, you also have to flip the sign. So now I have a -2. Since there's a line below, that's going to give me a closed circle. And it says x is less than -2. So any number less than -2 would make that solution. And there you have it. Here I want to actually write out an inequality given the graph. So I would always start off with the variable on the left-hand side and the number on the right-hand side. And the number that I care about is where the point's at. So in this case, it's at -3. So now I have to look, which way is the arrow pointing? Well, it's pointing to the left, so I want to make sure my symbol also points to the left. And then I look at my point. Is it a closed circle or open circle? Well, it's an open circle, so there should not be a line below. So if we look at this second one, if I have x and the point I'm dealing with is 0, and then it's pointing to the right, since the arrow is pointing to the right, my symbol should always point to the right. And since this is a closed point, there should be a line underneath. This says x is greater than or equal to 0. Make sure you fill out the Google Doc and submit your form. Have a wonderful evening.